My name is Monta. I'm from BBA 4, for those of you who don't know. And I'm an interesting example of starting an internship after the summer and continuing it throughout the year. I'm currently still working at Samsung Electronics Baltics, so I'm going to show you a little bit of an insight of what it's like to be working and studying at the same time with our very intense program. So let's start with how to get an internship. This is actually not the only approach, as you all know, how to actually get an internship. However, it's one that I went through myself and that I find the most effective. So what I encourage you to do, obviously a lot of people that you know, either friends, family, family's friends, just your kind of network of people you know, at least some should be or are still working at big corporations or even smaller firms. It doesn't really matter. But what I really want to encourage you to do is network with those people, whether it be family, whether it be parents, friends of parents, your friends' parents. It doesn't matter, but the more people you know that work at firms or have been working there for a really long time, those are the people that will help you possibly to get an internship at that firm or help you search for one. Because a lot of big corporations, for example, don't really have ads online, or they don't offer, they don't really publish their job opportunities or internship opportunities anywhere. So big corporations really look for people specifically. So if you stand up for yourself and kind of use your contacts and make use of your contacts and kind of find out whether you'd be able to kind of get the word out that you're looking for an internship, or see whether a company is looking for an intern. And if that interests you, you should be able to apply and initially ace the interview. And what I mean by ace the interview, that's a whole nother topic. I'm not going to go into that, but just my advice, the biggest advice to you in the internship, show them that you're the best student that they will ever meet in their whole life. So kind of that's a few steps for my kind of outlook for you, how you could get an internship in the best possible way. Because you would also know some people either working there or some people distantly working there. So that's kind of the best approach in my opinion. However, some things to do beforehand. Familiarize yourself with the company. Don't go in there thinking that you know everything, because a lot of companies have so much information, such big backgrounds, so much structure. There's no way that a person who hasn't been working there will know all of it. So research it. Know the company that you're going to. Bring a notebook. I find that it's very, as old-fashioned as it sounds, it's very useful to bring a notebook and write things down as you go along, because nobody has the memory to remember everything, especially on the first day. Know the dress code. That's kind of common sense, but before starting it, you should be able to go to your internship in a professional and attend the first day in a professional manner. Practice your commute. What I mean by that is, please do not be late on the first day. Being late as it is bad. Being late on the first day is horrible. Practice your commute. Know where the office is. Try going there in your free time to know what route to take, especially if you live far away like I do. I live in Mārupe, and my work is in Duntasiela, which is even farther than here. So I have to take pretty much at least 20 to half an hour drive to there every day. Well, especially if there's traffic. Check the latest industry news. That's one point that I emphasize very much. A lot of people will appreciate it if you are very kind of knowledgeable about the industry that the company operates in. Because if you go, like I did, I went to Samsung Electronics, and I'm a girl, so it's really, girls don't really follow the technology industry as well as guys do. However, I chose to update myself and kind of educate myself on the industry, on the latest news especially, to be able to kind of engage in conversations and not seem as though I'm working there just for the sake of it, that I'm actually engaging myself in the company and trying to get as much as I can out of it. And do your homework. I personally, just my personal example, but a lot of big corporations will assign you homework to do after the interview before they actually hire you. So please, I really encourage you to do that. Don't just kind of disregard it and feel as though it's not really your responsibility to do so yet because they haven't hired you. Do it and show them that you're the best. So as I mentioned, I started working in Samsung at the end of August of 2016. And my internship differs from a lot of others in the sense that it's not that it's not the typical 3-month internship that usually students get. It's actually until the end of May. So I'm continuing still the same position that I started. I'm still doing that right now, and it's actually something that a real-time, full-time employee would do if I wasn't there. So my duties and responsibilities. I'm working with TVs mainly. I'm in the consumer electronics department, and I am responsible for Baltic market research and data gathering and market data analysis for sales and marketing and data automatization for sales organization and presentation and distribution channel analysis and all those very complicated things for you probably. But it's something that I have no previous experience in. So my main kind of advice to you is don't stop yourself and don't tell yourself not to apply to a company or a position for an internship if you feel as though you won't know anything. I didn't when I started. I knew nothing about it. It took me about, I would say, roughly 2 weeks to get to know everything. So be prepared to be kind of blindsided at first and feel as though you're kind of wandering around not knowing what you're doing. But you will get there, and I'm now working there for half a year, and I feel like fish in the water. So I feel like I've been doing it for so much longer than I actually have, and I've gathered so much knowledge, actually more knowledge than I have ever, I think. Some difficulties and drawbacks that I've experienced: new working environment and colleagues. Obviously, that's kind of personal, depends on the person. Wasn't really too hard for me, but of course, being in a new environment and getting to know new colleagues and getting to know like the work culture and how they work and how they engage in conversations and meetings and things like that, that's something that you have to get used to. Getting to know who, what, how, that's what I talked about previously. You will feel like you don't know anything. You will get there. It will take some time, but you will get there. Corporation lingo, that's corporation language, for those of you who don't understand. Various big corporations use a lot of shortened, what are those called? Acronyms, thank you, for signifying a bigger term. They use that a lot because they don't have the time to use the full word. My advice to you, learn all of them, write them down, learn them like before your bedtime. Please just do that and you'll be fine and you will understand everything. Being new to systems and platforms used, especially for such a huge company like Samsung, they have internal systems where they do their work online or on the computer. They don't really use the traditional Microsoft, for example, provided programs, except for Microsoft Office, of course. So all of those new systems and platforms used were a huge difficulty for me in terms of getting to know how to use them. So the biggest problem for me was inability to find a solution to a problem, because my boss came to me and said, here is the task for you. I had been working there for maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Here's the task for you. It's it will take you around a month to do that. I don't know the solution. You are the one to come up with the solution and actually implement it, and tell me as you go along and show me drafts of what you've accomplished. And so the inability to find a solution was the biggest problem for me, because if you're faced with an issue that you've never dealt with before, you're kind of panicking. And I remember panicking for about a week before I actually arrived at the very key solution that I implemented afterwards. But I was so proud that I did, and I did that on my own. So I really encourage you, when you do go through your internships, don't stop at the very first problem or difficulty that you face, because it will be difficult. But the biggest problem of young people is giving up because you don't really know how to, or nobody tells you how to. It's your responsibility to find out how to do it. And of course, balancing studies and studies and work. I've been doing this, as I said, for half a year now. And balancing studies and work, of course, it's a challenge, but it's not very impossible, I would say. I'm not the only one who's balancing studies and work. Carlos will tell you later. But as I said, it's really important to balance both of those things equally, or actually put an emphasis on your studies so you don't get behind. Coping with difficulties. Please show interest. Show interest that you care. Show interest if you don't know anything, please ask. Be attentive. Write things down. Search for solutions. That's what I said before. It's your responsibility to find a solution unless somebody gives you the how-to. Manage time efficiently. That's kind of more to the balancing studies and work thing. As you go along, nobody gave me the framework of how to balance my time, so I kind of went along and saw how to manage mine. But my biggest advice to you is just plan your studies accordingly and then do work afterwards, because studies is your priority right now. So, and speaking of priorities, prioritize so you don't get behind on things that are not really high priority. So, main takeaways. I know a lot of young people, especially our age, are kind of reluctant to apply for an internship at a big corporation if they don't pay you. That's a big issue, especially for guys, I know. What I would say, yes, that is an issue. However, what you get in return, even if you don't get a pay, or if you get a really small pay, you get a really huge experience in terms of work culture, in terms of working in a huge corporation, even if it isn't huge, still working at a firm. You get new contacts. You get so much more and so much more value than the monetary value that you would get for whatever else, for example, working at coffee and as a barista. I mean, yes, you would get paid for that, but you would not get the additional value. So that's why it's in red. That's what I wanted to emphasize, is you should not stop yourself and not apply just because you feel like you should get paid. At this point in life, we're really young, we don't have experience, and we really need it. And in order to get there, we don't need the money right now as much as we do need the experience. So, yes, please just, and even if you have a chance to work at a firm, and even if you don't get paid, don't dismiss that opportunity at all. Of course, other things like internal systems and tools and company culture and structure, proactiveness, efficient time management, all those things I've mentioned before already, those are just additional kind of takeaways that I can take away from my experience, still kind of going through that. But the main thing is, as I mentioned before, I've learned so much during the 3-month period. I learned more than I have now on the second half, because it was all new to me and I did not know anything. So my main kind of advice to you, I said a lot of those things, but just apply for the firms that you feel will help you in the future, and don't be afraid of the fact that they won't pay you at all or will pay you a little bit. It's more for the experience rather than money.
Is it hard for you to combine work with the university?
To be honest, in the second year, not so much. Now that I'm in the second year, I would say last year I wouldn't have been able to do it, because I feel like the first year is just, Yes, Carlos is nodding because we've all gone through that. So we know the first year is kind of a mess and it's long days and you can't really combine it with work unless you work really, really late at night, basically. But my working hours are not as long so that I wouldn't be able to combine studies and work. So my working hours are basically, I finish work around 7, sometimes 8 every day. So school, work, and then I have the evening to do extra school work or whatever else. So it's really not that hard, especially in the second year. The workload is not as huge, I would say. So in terms of things that you have to do apart from classes, it's not as stressful. So for me, it's not a problem. Maybe for other people it would be, but for me personally, it's not a problem at all. I actually think that I would be able to work a couple more hours a day, so not a problem. And I think if you have an internship that you started later on in the summer or at the very end of the summer, you would be able to continue it. If you have that opportunity, you should not stop it. You should continue. The more you do and the longer the duration is, the better for you. Companies also like to see how long you've been in an internship. So if you have an opportunity to be there longer than 3 months, the required 3 months, do that.